Okay, so what did you say? What did you say about those different points? So the point about the line is this shows the maximum possible number of goods and services that we could have. I mean, an interesting point is, say, point E and point F. At point E, we have many consumer goods, say 150 million consumer goods, but no capital goods. Here we have, say, 120 million capital goods and no consumer goods, like one of the online teams, from when we played the first game. So that line then, it just shows all the different possibilities that we could have. It has a name. It's called a production possibility frontier. So what can we say about point A? Point A, we'd like it. Point A is very nice. We have lots and lots of consumer goods and lots of capital goods. Unfortunately, we don't have enough resources to have it. So point A, we can say, is currently impossible. It's just not possible to do it, because if we wanted, say, that many capital goods, unfortunately, we can only have that number of consumer goods, not that many. So A, whilst desirable, is currently impossible. Well, what about D? D's crap. Because at D we could have had more of both goods. Look at a point like G there. G has both more consumer goods and more capital goods. D only has that many. G has all of those. So D, and the reason for that is we're not using all of our resources. If you remember in the game, sometimes you had a spare worker that couldn't be used. At that point, you were kind of at point D. There are unemployed resources at point D. Not all the resources are being fully used. So D, and D has a name. We'll come to this later in the week. But D has a name. It's called Pareto. He was an economist. Pareto inefficient. And it just means that you could have more of one good without having less of another. There's no opportunity cost of either having more consumer or capital goods. You don't have to give anything up. So what about B and C? B and C, they are both a situation where resources are fully employed. We have fully employed factors of production, or we have full employment. So what's the difference between B and C? Really, it's going to depend on the pattern of demand. In economy B, there's a far higher proportion of consumer goods. Perhaps that's a more market-based economy led by consumers. In C, there are far more capital goods. Maybe that's a bit more like China has been over the last 20 or 30 years, where the government has directed the economy into Belt and Road, big capital steel initiatives, and so on and so forth. So B and C are equally efficient. They just reflect different choices in the economy. So ideally, we'd like to get to point A if we could in the future, but we can't at the moment. We don't want to be at point D because we're not using not using all of our resources. Some of them are unemployed. So if you now look below this video in OneNote, you'll see a chart with global GDPs. And if you remember, GDP represents the total value of output that's being produced in an economy. So underneath that, there's a PPF. All I'd like you to do now is to have a go at representing where you think, given the GDPs that we have, I've marked on the US in 2019, its production possibilities. I'd like you to mark on where you think India, China, and the UK are relative to the US. That's exercise number 1. Have a go at that. When you're ready, play the clip that's immediately after the PPF diagram.